Pues bien, ya estamos en directo. Bien. Hola gente, ¿qué tal? Soy SMB03 y sean bienvenidos a un nuevo directo. Y esta vez les traigo la segunda parte de Stanley para Ultra Deluxe Edition. En el capítulo anterior empezamos este juego, en el cual no tenía ni idea de Stanley Parable. Y en este capítulo vamos a seguir con el nuevo contenido que nos trae esta edición. Reitero, yo nunca jugué la versión original de Stanley Parable. Esto es básicamente un playthrough blind, solamente con el contenido de Ultra Deluxe y todo. Y estoy pasándola muy bien, así que el otro capítulo tuvo bastante apoyo. Buenas noches, capo, ¿qué onda con eso? Acá que pongo el chat. A ver, voy a poner el chat. ¿Cómo no? Tiki. Tengo un mensaje de Discord, a ver. A ver, van en contexto. Ok, ahí está, ahí me sale el coso del panel de administración. Vamos a ver qué pasó hoy, sí, vamos a ver qué pasó hoy. Transmisión de regla y mejorar, ya puedes streamear en modo retrato, editar la información de tu stream en vivo y ver tu chat fácilmente gracias al nuevo rediseño. O sea... Pruébalo, a ver. Oh, mira. Marrebot perdió, Marrebot, amigo. Marrebot. Esto está genial. Acá puedo compartir stream directamente del celular y... ¡Oh, qué bonito! Otro mensaje de Discord que voy a contestar después, la verdad. Voy a contestar después. Ahí me apuro. Bueno. Acá estamos. Acá puedo ver el chat, acá puedo ver el feed de actividad. Esto está muy piola. Esto está muy piola, esto está muy piola. Esta es una versión mejorada del coso. Bueno. Vamos a jugar. Iniciar partida. Recuérdense, el final nunca es el final, nunca es el final, nunca es el final, nunca es... Bueno. Let's go. Haz clip para omitir, ya vimos la intro. Ok, a ver. En verdad este juego me da medio, pero bueno, qué sé yo.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Bueno, estaba en
What
directo.
could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok, según... A ver. Según tengo entendido, el juego guarda mi progreso, mira. A ver. ¿Qué hay acá? No puedo hacer zoom. También quiero hablar, gente, que mañana se viene otro capítulo de Half-Life No Dead. Así es, después de un tiempo sin subirlo. ¡Opa! ¡Nuevo contenido! Vamos a ver.
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Opa, ¿está acá adentro? No. Opa. A ver. Están las cariñosas ahí. ¿Cómo? A ver este nuevo contenido. Nuevo contenido, perdónenme. Hablemos con propiedad.
I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable, and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has
Yo no sé
turned
por
out
qué
to
no jugué la
be.
original,
The
así que...
original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to
Sí,
that
tan bueno
list.
que nunca lo
So
jugué.
forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable.
¡Oh! ¡Oh! ¡Ganamos!
You see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up.
¡Ganamos!
So many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Exactamente, lo que yo quería. Never the End Again. Stanley Parable 2. 4.27. Opa. Rosso debe estar sorprendido porque finalmente, boludo, de Stanley Parable 2. Ok, no hay nada acá. Acá no puedo pasar. Está el directo de hoy.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Claro. Claro, porque esto ya no es Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, estamos en Stanley Parable 2, hay que empezar. Mira la nota. Just the two of us, we can make if we try. Just the two of us, just the two of us, just the two of us. Building castles in the sky, just the two of us. You and I. Joder. Qué poético. No puedo creerlo. No puedo creerlo, gente. Dos. A ver. They are back. 2 doors. Stanley Parable 2. Mirá, no boludo. Stanley Parable. Pero la pregunta es: ¿para cuándo Stanley Parable 2 Ultra Deluxe?
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Opa, ¿puedo tomar asiento? No, no puedo. Cuando salga GTA 6, dale, amigo. Falta poco para que salga GTA 6, digo, ahora. Estamos más cerca que nunca. Wow, igual. Para esto se ve hermoso. Tipo, yo que soy fanático de los diseños de interiores.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Ok. ¿Qué tenemos? Tenemos para explorar. Pancada que esto se volvió un mundo libre. The end never the end again. This t-shirt is the best new feature. 2. 2. No, no va a pasar. ¿Qué es de Stanley Parable? ¿Qué podría salir mal? The button that says the name of the player that is playing the game. Oh.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game.
Ah, ¿en serio?
Isn't that wonderful?
¡Oh! Gente, ¿estamos listos? ¿Estamos listos para tocar el botón? ¿Sí? ¿Se hace? ¿Estamos preparados? ¿Le toco? ¿Lo toco? ¿Qué decís? ¿El toque lo toco? Estoy emocionado, Dale, ahí vamos.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim.
Ah!
In the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it.
Ok, buena gente,
here we
bienvenidos
go.
a un nuevo
Let's
directo
take a
de
deep breath,
JMB03.
Clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you...
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim, rediscovering yourself through fringe religious groups as Jim, and finally, dying a slow death at an...
Jim.
All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Jim.
See, if you'd only played along, that would have been
Jim.
your name the button
Jim.
says.
Jim.
But no.
Jim.
Instead,
Jim.
oh,
Jim.
I
Jim.
can't even
Jim.
think about it.
Jim.
I'm taking the
Jim.
Jim button
Jim.
away.
Jim. 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 Jim.
¡No! ¡No! ¡No, Jim! ¿Por qué? Era tan joven. Era tan joven. ¿Por qué? ¡Ay! ¡Monstruo! Eres eso lo que eres, un monstruo.
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable too.
Bueno.
They would appreciate what I've created here.
A ver, ¿dónde vamos ahora? Las escaleras no, me dan miedo. Vamos acá. With the babies are grown up, girls. Okay. Ready the new orange? A whole new office? The new update ray tracing more of the same but in a good way. Sequel to D. New feature, new content, new ideas. Ok, es solamente un... You heard Jim in the game. ¡Ah, lo cambiaron! ¿Dónde vos soy Jim? ¿El botón que dice Jim? ¡Lo cambiaron! ¡Qué bueno! ¡Qué buen detalle! ¡Ay, Dios! No, screenshots. ¿No? Listo. Captura. Where's Jim?
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
Ok, vamos a probar el balde.
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they?
Sí, sí.
All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Ok. Vamos a llevar el balde con nosotros.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
No screenshot, no screenshots. Ok, no voy a sacar screenshots.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday.
Por
Which
si no
would you
saben,
go
estoy
with?
tocando el F12. Tipo, no sé si abajo se ve pantalla de captura de pantalla puesta. Que Well Someday o Happy Birthday Steve Nice. Me gusta este.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Ok.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
Free New Plus Easy Achievements. I can't believe it's that simple. Eso suena como anuncio. Llegamos. Esto.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Puto. A ver, ¿qué tenemos por acá? Exit, no, todavía no quiero salir. Epochal, Jump Circle, este mapa. Free Achievement, el botón que dice el nombre del jugador que está jugando el juego. Mentira, es el botón que dice Jim. Merch. Setting World Champion, Stanley Parable Reserve Box, epílogo, coleccionables, juegos infinitos, salida. Ok, a ver. Coleccionables, el Free New Plus, el anuncio o el agujero infinito. No terminará. ¿A dónde vamos? ¿Dónde querés ir, Helto? Tenemos los coleccionables, el o anuncio o el agujero infinito. ¿Dónde vamos? Coleccionables, vamos a los coleccionables. Yo soy muy fan de los collectatons, así que... Can you find them? Can you find them? Can you find them? Okay.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
¡Stanley! ¡Esto es Stanley, boludo! Una de 6. Espero que haya
It really is the
más.
worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Ok. El coleccionable, logro gratis, agujero infinito. Vamos a los logros gratis, boludo. Que a quién no le gustan los logros gratis. Ahora me da curiosidad saber si se ha desbloqueado tipo los otros coleccionables. Vamos a ir al coso gratis. ¿Por qué no? ¿A quién no le gustan las cosas gratis? Full Deliver, Resident Evil Achievement, este video Works. Ok.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that.
A ver.
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Va a funcionar, estoy seguro. Si la aprieto muchas veces. Estoy seguro que si la aprieto muchas veces va a funcionar, boludo. Vean, vean. Vean, vean, vean. Yo sé que va a funcionar, yo sé que va a funcionar, yo sé que va a funcionar, yo sé que va a funcionar. Por favor, amigo. Vamos a estar acá 20 minutos, ¿ok? Estoy seguro de que esto va a funcionar. Ok, tal vez no. Ah, bueno. No vaya a ser que me pierdan un coleccionable. Arre. Ok.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
A ver. El agujero infinito. The holy moly, how deep we can dig.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games.
Ay,
as
qué
a
miedo.
medium.
Ay, qué miedo, no quiero. Ay, qué miedo. ¡Ay, qué grima! ¡Ay, qué grima! ¡Ay, qué grima! ¡Ay, qué grima! No sé si... ¿Qué dice, gente? ¿Me tiro? Me tiro a ver qué pasa. Creo que no va a salir bien. Creo que no va... ¡Ah! Creo que no va a salir bien. Pero me tiro. Helltoe. Video todavía profesional. ¿Me tiro o no me tiro? Bueno, porque parece que Helltoe no está aquí. Voy a tirarme. Bye. A ver si qué tan lejos llego.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Great. Now,
Okay.
I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Ok. Ok, ¿qué tenemos por acá? Haz mundial de la configuración, agujero infinito, logro gratis. esto no sirve.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley?
Ah, el epílogo.
Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Bueno. Pues no puedo abrirlo. Ok. Bueno, creo que eso ha sido todo. Va, me faltan el Office Decoration. Va, creo que el Office Decoration ya lo vi con coso. Sí, creo que eso es todo. ¡Vámonos! No, eso no. Ok, la salida está por acá. Ok. A ver.
All right, have you seen everything you wanted to?
Sí.
Ready to move on now?
What the fuck? Please no screenshots.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right?
Supongo.
It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
What?
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original.
¿Estás creando Ultra Deluxe otra vez?
Could it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, this is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
A ver. Ok. Opa. De Stanley Parable 2. Ok, esto tiene pinta buena. Bueno, gente, bienvenidos a mi nuevo Let's Play Stanley Parable 2. Una gana de empezar este juego, no sé nada. Voy completamente blind. Vamos. ¿Qué onda, Gelto? ¿Estabas acá con lo del hoyo, boludo?
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Escuta,
Employee
no me
number
va bien esto, pero
427's
quiero
job
ver.
was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have...
No, no creo que tenga nada nuevo aparte de coso. A ver, vamos a probar el... Ok.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Que duele el
Stanley
someday.
decided to go to the meeting room.
No,
Perhaps
están
he'd
re mal
simply missed a
puestos.
memo.
Este está re mal puesto, me encanta. No.
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Ok, vamos a seguirlo. A ver.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy, it's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expound
Malo,
on the wide
malo, hermano
variety of
limpieza, malo.
experiences you and the bucket have shared together.
Tendrías que estar avergonzado.
Each of them
Disculpate.
point by point.
Disculpate,
Share your
armario.
journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over
Déjame
the years.
decirte algo, armario.
Let him have it.
Déjame decirte algo, armario. Sos una poronga. Sí, me escuchaste bien, sos una poronga. No mereces este balde. Nunca te lo voy a dar.
I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go.
Ahí tenés, a tu
No,
cara, pelotudo.
No more debate.
Acá,
No more
armario de
discussion.
mierda. ¿Quién te
Take
creíste
our
que
hype
eras?
broom closet with all the
Yo soy el
yapping
propietario de este
philosophical
balde.
diatribes
No vos,
about the nature of cleaning
pelotudo.
supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order. Coming to a
Cerré el orto.
staircase, Stanley and the
Cerré el
bucket
orto.
walked upstairs to the boss's
Cerré el
office.
orto. Le cerré el orto. Gané la discusión. Gané la discusión, boludo. No hay comparación.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only
Yes.
the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't
Exactly.
buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Ok, bien. Ok,
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
¡Oh!
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or
What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that.
Stanleycito.
Another Stanlerine under
Otro
your belt.
Stanleycito. Vamos atrás. Porque quiero ver si... Quiero ver si hay otro coleccionable atrás. Nada, no puedo volver atrás. Espero que haya otro Stanleycito atrás, ¿viste? A ver. No quiero que este juego se acabe nunca, la verdad, lo
The
amo.
elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Oh, ok.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Como zorro.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Tranquilo, Valde, todo va a salir bien.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well?
Puede ser.
Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Ok.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Me encanta la escena, o sea, el de la nada, pensando de la nada, le grita al balde, ¡no!
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with
Y ahí
emotion.
todo silencioso y de la nada rompe,
Sad,
¡no!
or
Al balde,
content.
me encanta.
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Ese, no
For
puede.
he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
No va a pagarlo.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the
Eso
end.
es una idea
True, it was a
terrible.
simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd live together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to...
¿Qué?
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty. Until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
¡No!
The facility
¡No!
itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Ok. Ah,
All of his co-workers
ok, ese es un
were
final
gone.
de esto.
What
Tiene
could it mean?
finales también.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting
¿Qué?
room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Sí, ya voy. Va, que me gente. Voy a agarro el balde.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Ok. Parece que tengo que jugar el mismo juego pero con el balde. Ah, va que ahora vuelvo. Ok, ya he vuelto. Bien. Ok. Vamos ahora a ir, pero vamos a hacer la... Ok, vamos a ir.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Vamos a sacar todo de esto también. Trust the cooperative. There will be a reward for finding them all. So secret exit. Ah, ¿esto dónde están?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
¡Ajá!
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figleys.
¿Por qué
What do you think,
Figleys?
Stanley?
Figleys.
What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Ok. Voy a hacer en roja y azul. Muchas cajas y voy a ir a hacer roja y azul.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket.
Bueno.
The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort.
Oh no.
And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket.
El balde.
Now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground.
No, estoy volando.
Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought. And she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And
My
she
life
did
kicks
it
ass.
all the way to work.
Dando volteretas. Ay, me encanta imaginarme las cosas que me propone este juego, boludo.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a map. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Vamos a hacer el otro cosa del escape. Y el no. Vamos a terminar con la parte de acá. Somewhere que es more red. Blue. A large room. Lot of boxes. Ok, igual voy a ir a todos los lados, así que. ¿Todo lo mismo?
All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see? I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Zapam, zapam, pam, pam. Ah, mi lugar. Llegamos a mi destino. Bueno, vamos a sacar las dos cosas que nos quedan de acá.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Let's go. Vamos a sacar el otro final. Moriremos, morirá Stanley y su balde. Lo descubriremos en unos momentos.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept his own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never... But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
El mejor final. El mejor final de todos. el mejor final, pero...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
A ver. Todavía quedan dos. ¿Puedo ponerme otra calcomanía?
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
Dale, dale, dale. Ah.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Vamos.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control for... Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Vamos, Valde. Es hora.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
El balde te da la medida de gran exposición, te cuenta la exposición conocimiento. Al igual que un balde, la mente humana suele estar vacía como una caverna. Pero gracias a la exposición que tienes enfrente, la mente se llena, se enriquece y se exalta. El conocimiento del balde y su historia es el único conocimiento que tenemos en verdad. ¿Llevarás contigo al mundo que aprendas aquí? ¿Llevarás contigo al mundo lo que aprendas aquí, perdón? ¿Aceptarás con mente abierta la información de esta muestra que podría desafiar tu modo de ver el universo? ¿Cambiarás tu vida y la de tus seres queridos como consecuencia de esta exposición? ¿O harás la vista gorda y seguirás viviendo como hasta ahora, entre la oscuridad y la ignorancia? Ok.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Un balde con 2 asas. Dios, que no vale con 2 asas parecidos, o sea que no acaba la guerra, pues se considera demasiado peligroso, imprudente, experimental. Pero de muerte esa empresa fue intentar. Balde infernal. Replica del balde infernal en el medioevo. Este objeto derrotado al siguiente que esta guerra entre los naciones que pugnaban por su control. Miles de millones murieron, pero la realidad cambió. Porque nadie puede controlar un balde. Opa. Me encanta que cambien hasta las posiciones para que sean baldes, boludo. Balde rupestre. Si bien sabemos que los baldes son anteriores a la aparición del ser humano, no tenemos idea de cuánto tiempo antes surgieron. En este retroceso rupestre se ve cómo nuestros ancestros descubrieron el uso práctico del balde. Vale, entonces es probable que los baldes llevan milenios en el planeta. Solo como el balde permite que la humanidad es digna de sus tesoros. Ok.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
El balde colgante. Desde algo sigue a racista entre el y la humanidad, pero es que hasta romper el balde hay algo más que siempre está fuera de alcance. Inevitablemente esta distancia existe por nuestro propio bien. Oye, el oso sin fin.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together.
Sí, me parece una buena
Take
opción.
his place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision for...
Ok, eso fue algo. Ok.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. No, the orders were still missing. For now. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Ah, ok, sí podía caerme después de todo. Yo dije, apuesto que no me puedo estimar, bueno, vamos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket.
off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Claro.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No. Quiero ver el final de cosas.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the... Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
¡Ay, sí! Bueno, para la próxima.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him. The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley? Can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk.
¿Qué?
All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different
No, no puede
location.
ser.
That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Pero el balde. Pero el balde. No era el tipo que grita. Sí, no le hago caso.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket.
¿Estás
This
celoso?
stupid hunk of metal. It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
¿Tú crees que existo, no? ¿Stanley o preme F para volver a casa?
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket? Oh no, I'm having feelings for the bucket.
No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket.
No!
Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Ah. Buen trabajo, Stanley. Ok, eso fue interesante.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in... Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfect. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Exactamente.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Supongo que es acá, ¿no?
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Ahí vamos.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now, we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines.
bien.
None of us can.
Claro. Ok, bien. Tenemos... No quiero caerme. No tenemos... Oh.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes.
Ok.
The sheer euphoria I feel
¿Qué?
every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
Ok. Eso fue bastante turbio. Que no te voy a negar. Esto se puso demasiado oscuro, sí, sí.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps a good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a
Un balde
committed
humilde.
bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley
Eso,
touched
sí,
the bucket.
el balde es el mejor
This
personaje de
was
Stanley
not
para
the
ver.
correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place
Pueden
to
poner
be.
un balde god en el chat.
And here
Balde
it was.
god.
Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked
Balde
straight
god.
ahead to the opposite door.
Ok, vamos por acá. Ok. La verdad que esto está muy loco. Ok, solamente me vuelve acá. Ok, ¿dónde está? Somewhere about red and blue. Ok. Vale,
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet,
Okay.
simply because I have no remaining stickers. If coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket
Venga.
walked up.
Esto es... Esto es... coso. Esto es lo mismo. Venga, ok. ¿Qué? ¿El teléfono este?
Hello. This is a recorded message scheduled either by you or a person in your place of work. The purpose of this message is to warn you about the dangers of recorded messages. If at any time you believe you are listening to a recorded message, please terminate it immediately and cease all flow of information from the recorded message into your perceptual sphere. Thank you, and have a pleasant day.
Ok, para los que no entienden inglés, básicamente dijo: hola, este mensaje grabado es para para avisarte lo peligroso que son los mensajes grabados. Si alguna vez escuchas un mensaje grabado, corre inmediatamente hacia creo que dijo hacia la comisaría o hacia el edificio. No, creo que dijo hacia el edificio. O sea, hacia la compañía esta que hacen ellos supuestamente, y te ayudaremos.
The embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
Ok, vamos.
Stanley clutched the bucket
queda
tightly
un
to his
coleccionable.
chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Sí.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out
Uno,
to
si
be
escribí
correct?
más.
Was this better than the... No, never mind.
Queda
Bucket
una
was
figurita.
wrong.
Y las
Stanley
conseguimos
took the
todas.
door on his left to go back to, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
La de Messi. La de Messi. La de Mbappé.
Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Wow.
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee!
Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as
Quiero contar la
well.
última cosa. Bueno, está bien.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No. No.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you
No.
give it the
No.
bucket.
No.
I don't know what the
No.
Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and... Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Ok. Vale, vamos a sacar el
The
otro.
meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to
Venga,
get to the meeting
un
room.
lugar rojo
The
y
bucket made
azul.
Stanley want to be a better
¿No
man
será
and a better co-worker.
la sala
In
esta
time,
de-
perhaps, he would become
de
both
control
of those
mental?
things. Stanley clutched the bucket
Vamos a probar.
tightly to
Quiero
his
ver una
chest
cosa
and
antes de
entered
volver a
the
hacer.
door.
Antes de volver ahí abajo. Y destruir el balde. Porque nos queda esta. Antes de pedirnos el balde bot, sí.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Porque es un lugar azul y rojo. Y yo el único lugar azul y rojo que
Stepping into his
creo.
manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Ahí vamos. Quiero ver si es acá donde está, y si no, no sé. Me voy al balde, la aplicación más lógica, sí. El balde me dice que tiene
Stanley and the
cosas.
bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible
Ese es el
secret
balde,
did
no
this
se
place
está
hold?
lavando el cerebro.
Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket.
Me
He
sigue
couldn't
dando
accept
mucha
it.
gracia
His own life in someone
esa
else's
escena.
control.
Está re
Never!
callado y de la nada le grita
Seized
¡No!
the
Al balde.
His one friend
me
in the entire
encanta.
world. At this point, he could trust
Me
no one
encanta la
except
imagen mental
the
de
bucket.
Stanley callado y de la nada gritando no al balde. Oye, acá la habitación que digo.
But here was
¿Estará
the
acá?
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy,
Pues
or
acá es donde
sad,
veo
or
rojo y azul.
content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its
rojo
terrible
y
power
azul.
over another human life.
Tengo que
For
encontrar
he and
la
the
figurita,
bucket would
boludo.
dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Está la figura de Messi, narrador. Es acá, ¿no? Creo. Yo te hago con tutorial si no me encuentro. ¿Eh? Yo te hago un tutorial ahí, Stanley Figurines. Opa. ¿Dónde puede estar, boludo? ¿Dónde puede estar? ¿Dónde está la figurita? Sí, sí, sí. El objetivo mío es conseguir la figurita, boludo. No puedo pasar. Ya fue la banquenme, quiero encontrarla. Quiero encontrarla, así que voy a abrir Google y voy a buscar. Voy a contar este mensaje de Discord en el que estoy mientras abro Google. Depende de mi estado emocional. Bien, esto ya está contestado, así que voy a buscar Stanley. De Stanley Parable. Ultra Deluxe. Stanley Figures. Where to find out Stanley mini Stanley Figures. A ver. Sí, ya sé cómo conseguirla. Sé cuál es. Ok, quiero ver la 4. The second view is inside the cargo room. We need to be grabbed by walking on the left. The fourth view is a phone about the play webs of the movie. Ah, ¿cómo? Phone after player wipes off to the movie cargo lift and onto the cargo. Ok, ya sé cómo ir. Vamos. Va, creo que tengo una idea. Vamos.
All of his co-workers
Quiero ver
had
qué más se
gone.
agarro todas.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the
¿Qué
bucket
pasó? ¿Me lo
tightly
perdí? No,
to
no,
his
es que,
chest.
es
This
que
was not
encontré la forma de
correct
llegar.
into the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there.
Okay,
Go
no.
to the cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top.
Tenemos que ir ahí.
There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed
Ah, no
him,
llegué.
but Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest.
Empezar de cero que va a ser más rápido. Va que tengo que llegar. Esto es como un speedrun, boludo.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed
Vale.
support, and it takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward. Stanley clutched the
Stanley
bucket
se
tightly to
aferró
his...
con
This was
fuerza
not
al
the
balde,
correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee
No
lounge was
de.
simply the
No de.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Ok, tenemos que ir acá.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
Go
Go
ahead.
somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
Enamorado del
It
balde.
should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this
Ahí
obvious
va.
fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness. I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
No me jodas que saque una ruta alternativa a lo que quiero. Creo que sí.
Now then, I'm going to run you
Okay,
through
tengo que
some
venir acá
test
sin el balde.
scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket?
No.
Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
No.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
¿Cómo?
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Por supuesto.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Pregunta capciosa a las dos. Es si no es.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. Should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Sí.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
Sí.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone?
todo era mal.
Was everything a bucket?
Sí.
Every single thing in the game was a bucket.
Sí.
Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either.
Sos un balde, Helton.
Wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't
Yo
got
sí
a
soy
game.
un balde, lo sabía.
So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
¡Baldísimo! Ok. Ok, vamos a no llevar el
All of his
balde.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this
Verga, no
in his
llegué.
eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one.
Verga, no llegué, boludo. No llegué. Tiene que ser un poco más arriba. Sí, no tengo que ir sin el balde.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
Tengo que
simply
ir
missed
sin
a
el
memo.
balde. Lamentablemente, sé que te duele, pero hay que ir sin el balde.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was
Hasta mi
okay.
género.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. And there it is. The last Stiggly
¡Vamos!
Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Bueno,
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
ok.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
What? ¿Cómo? Ok. Muy lindo, pero
No, wait. Where are you going?
ya fue suficiente. Me voy.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
No! Oh, thank God you lived. No, 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 what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
No.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
Sí, guarda por vos mismo. ¡Ah!
Maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along.
Nunca.
I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Sí. Mi plan funcionó. Me siento mal, bueno, pobrecito, sí. Vamos a hacerle un favor. Vamos a hacerlo igual.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Okay. A ver.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Okay. Bien, bien, bien.
And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
106.
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? No. Under the stairs was the 4th place you found a Figanley, not the 3rd. Well, I guess perhaps I shouldn't be surprised. Memories like these are so precious and so cherished that they all just sort of blend together, don't they? You know what? If under the stairs feels like the 3rd place you found a collectible, then who am I to go making judgments?
Okay. ¿Dónde está la salida? Ahí está.
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a figure in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Okay.
This was the 5th mini-stand, and this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
A ver. Opa. Opa. El video de YouTube en 2008.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else. And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Okay.
And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction.
Bueno,
see how that feels.
Vamos a hacer esto y lo dejamos por este capítulo, aunque no sé
Okay,
cuándo
yes,
queda.
the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
No, otra.
Yes, I love that video.
Sí, a mí también. Esta va a ser extendida, dice.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Okay.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Claro.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now.
Okay.
Look how much fun the past is. I want more memories.
Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
Okay.
And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Okay.
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Ok, me dijo lo que tiene que traer a la...
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vamos a ver si hacemos esto...
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Esto es lo último que hacemos. A ver si funca.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Quiero ver si está la última posta.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the open
¿Será esta la última?
passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Okay.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Okay.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content.
Okay.
Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would... blackness, and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ok, las cosas cambiaron. Por un segundo.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Ok, fue un
What could
segundo,
it mean?
pero...
Stanley decided to go
sí.
to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Que ya no está el balde. Bueno,
When
no
Stanley
sé
came...
cómo queda, que se está en pausa. Ok. No sé si queda más cosas por hacer. Voy a investigar porque no sé qué cosas pueden tener. O sea, quiero ver. Porque tal vez este fue el último final. El de uno último, así me jubilo. Voy a ver, voy a investigar. Y de última voy a poner esto con que es la parte final. Pero... qué sé yo. Voy a ver. Porque no me queda mucho en realidad. De las cosas nuevas que me faltan creo que hay 2 o 3 cositas más. Y no sé si vale la pena hacerlo en directo. Voy a checar. Bueno, en fin. Muchas gracias por ver. Sigan a 89, sigan a Rosurrucasu y sigan a Mafas888. Y nada, gente. Nos estaremos viendo cuando la vida así lo quiera. Bye.